Welcome back to our KDKA-TV News Election Night Special. The polls have been closed for just about 14 minutes now. We're already seeing mail-in ballot results come in. Let's get over to political editor Jon Delano and host of Around the Table, Stacy Smith. Gentlemen.
Well, we're absolutely delighted to welcome you to this unique panel of individuals, 40 years of age down to 19 age years. So we're really happy to have you here. Let me introduce very quickly Phil Little, who is from Ross Township and is a member of the North Hills School Board. Welcome, Phil. Thanks. Ashley Comans, who is on the school board in Wilkinsburg as well, 2 Democrats on this side. And over on my left, opposite political parties, obviously, Aaron Coper, who is from Elliott in the West End and is chair of the Allegheny County Council of Republican Women. And Michael Little, who is from Richland, who is with the College Republicans at the University of Pittsburgh. And of course, my dear friend and colleague, Stacy Smith. Always great to grab this man out of retirement to talk about elections. Stacy and I go back to 1994 when we first did this.
We first started doing this back then, 1994, and I really appreciate the fact that you say the panelists all are 40 or under. I appreciate that.
Yeah, there are 2 exceptions.
Okay, there are 2 exceptions. I'm going to start with this. We take a look at the mail-in ballots that have been counted already, and it's about 109,000, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in that area. And if it's broken down, I believe we take a look at it, and Joe Rockey has 32% of those mail-in ballots. His camp has said they need 25% of the Democratic vote. Right now, he's got 33% of the mail-in votes. So, Aaron and Michael, this has to give you a lot of confidence going into the rest of the night. The rest of the county still has to vote, obviously, but the fact that he's at 33%, and my calculations, he needs 28% to win from the Democrats.
I'll be honest, Stacey, I'm not surprised. I've been on the campaign trail now for months and weeks, and I am seeing a bipartisan coalition happening in our county for our DA race and our county executive race. So I'm seeing he's uniting a lot of party lines.
Michael, do you feel the same way?
I definitely do feel the same way, and if you just look at his more centrist plan, you can see that he's really alluring more towards the Democratic voters as well. I've noticed that there are a substantial amount of Democrats for Rockey signs all throughout the entirety of Allegheny County, and just most of his proposals have been incredibly specific not only to the Republicans, but also towards the Democratic Party as well, including the hydrogen hub, which gained support from both Rich Fitzgerald and Governor Shapiro.
Should we ask the Democrats?
Yeah, I was going to say, Ashley, how do you view this? Obviously, a little different than the 2 Republicans over here.
I do. I mean, I think I view it as early. You know, we are still awaiting actual polling locations where people are showing up to vote. I think about our senior population who very strongly like to vote in person. And in regards to the coalition, I think one thing on the Democrat side, it's about bringing more people into the fold, right? You reach out to the voters who typically aren't what folks may consider a super voter, right? You go to the people who feel like they've been left out, and I think that's always been the push from the Democrat side. We have a lot of people in our base that just haven't been tapped into, and that is what I look to see.
Phil, you live in the suburbs.
I do.
And of course up in the North Hills, and that's a very critical area for Joe Rockey. Can Sarah Innamorato win your area?
Well, I look to the hometown girl who is from Ross, right? And I think Sarah can do it. You know, she talks about being for all. And that means everyone from, Westview to the West End and everywhere in between. And she's done a great job, as well as her campaign, in getting that message out that Ashley mentioned. It's about everyone, the folks on the fringe, and making sure their voice is heard. And she's done a great job at doing that. And we got to count every vote, and we haven't done that yet, right?
Yep.
And we want to make sure every vote's counted, and I believe she can do it.
I'd like to reiterate something you said, which was you pointed to the fact that 33% of the mail-in votes, that includes, of course, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, 33% went to Rockey. I talked to the Rockey campaign earlier today. They feel they needed 35% in order to get them a sure win. That anything under 35% still meant this election was up for grabs.
Indeed, but I want to throw this question out there as well, and that is in relation to the fact that, it's coming from a Rockey poll. We don't have a poll that I know of from Sarah Innamorato's camp, but the latest Rockey poll showed that he was ahead by 1% going into this election today. Earlier on, the Rockey people felt if they were within 3% going into election day, they had a shot at it. So given what you both say about how Sarah Innamorato reaches out to everyone. This would indicate to me that she's got a little bit more problem than you would think in such a heavily Democratic county.
Well, I think it really comes down to money being spent, right? There's no doubt that this wasn't going to be a cakewalk for either side, right? Both sides have gotten in there, and when you look at the money being spent, it really honestly is getting that message out there, and that's what runs elections, unfortunately. Not the best ideas, but who has the most money sometimes, and I think that's ringing true right now is what we see.
Well, there's no question Joe Rockey outspent Sarah Innamorato considerably,
Yeah.
multiple millions. We only have a couple minutes left. Let's move to the DA's race. And let me just pull out the question. You guys can answer it. Do you think it's Stephen? There we go. Stephen Zappala has 39% of the mail-in votes. The mail-in votes. Matt Dugan at 61%. Do you think Stephen Zappala is going to win re-election? Anybody?
I absolutely do. Look, he is a law and order Democrat. He has stayed true to his base as remaining a Democrat, and Republicans have really embraced him as a candidate and a top law enforcement. You know, he has a lot of accolades under his belt with the dash cams, body cams, and he has taken thousands of drugs off our street through the years. So I think he resonates with our voters here in Allegheny County, and they know what's best for our region.
How about you, Ashley? How do you feel?
So I am very much in support of Dugan. I think Dugan can pull this one out. I think it's going to be very close. I think with Zappala being the DA as long as he has been, there's a little bit of voter confusion, right? You know, he's been a Democrat for a really long time. And I know in some of the conversations I've been having over the past couple of weeks, I've been, you know, kind of reminding people he lost the primary. And Dugan is the Democrat that won. Yeah. And in regards to, you know, the conversation around law and order, I think that it's so much larger than that. And when we talk about violence, when we talk about what's happening in the community, we should also be talking about poverty. And if we're not going to address those root cause issues.
Yeah.
Well, you bring up the issues here, but again, it would appear that the issue of crime resonated well with people, more so than the root cause of what the crime is.
I do want to weigh in on one thing. You mentioned money being spent in the county executive race with Sarah Innamorato being outspent by Rocky and how that's influencing this race. But let's look at how you made the remark of him, Dugan, getting through the primary. Now, where did that money come from? We have a George Soros candidate who's fully endorsed and donated to his campaign. So that money is now influencing this race.
We're going to have to wrap up this discussion. This has been great. I do think we want to caution everybody again.
Oh, yeah.
Very early returns. Only the mail-ins. We've got this whole big county to hear from before we're going to declare anybody the winner. So we've got a ways to go. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back again later in the show.